And I'll go first. One, two, three.
1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3.
All right, and make sure that your little recording device actually has little WAV files recording, so you know it's actually working.
Yeah, it's working.
Brilliant. All right. No silly intro again, I guess. Unless you got something to say real quick. Yeah, shut up. Hey everybody, welcome back to a brand new spanking, dude. Ooh, you like that? Spanking new episode of Speak Freely. I'm, of course, one of the co-hosts here, Mr. David B. Oh, I didn't do it. It's over, man. The bit's over. I have to think of something clever. And as always, I'm joined with my most esteemed co-host, Mr. Kuno Stars. How are you, my dude?
I'm doing well, thanks. How are you?
I'm pretty good, man. It's been a busy week. Let's do a little life update. It's not planned, but
I haven't heard from you in a while.
yeah, let's do it. It's not in the notes, but like we do notes, we do. Sometimes. A little peek behind the curtain. I've been good, man. I've been. So I mean, I'll just be honest. Like right now, I lost like two gigs last week. So for those of you that know, it's I'm a full-time musician, so I'm like a freelancer / independent contractor, right? So I teach music as lessons in different various studios around Houston and Sugar Land. And essentially last week I got told that I'm not returning to two of them because there's no work. So they can't really justify the expense of keeping me on for nothing. So I was freaking out a little bit. And then, I drank, got a little drunk. It happens, right? After a day of getting shit in news, like you got fired. Even though it's not really I got fired, it's just I got let go. But whatever. It's more of a pity party if I said, man, they fired me, man. But
it's a little dramatic. But
yeah. That's what I am, bro. I'm drama personified. Nah, I got let go. But it still sucked, though. You know what I mean? Because it was like, I was supposed to start work officially next week. Next week is the beginning of the semester for most kids here in Houston in schools. And the work always aligned with when the kids were going back to school. So it was like we were after school activities, you know what I mean? So, and there's just nothing. There's just nothing right now, at least for me, you know what I mean? And the little bit that there is, obviously, like the head honchos in every studio get that first because, they got to pay the bills and what have you. So I get it. But at the same time, it still sucked. So after I had my little pity party, I was like, well, I got to figure out what to do, right? Because I can't really go back to school right now either because I don't really have the money for that to, like, change degrees or change careers. So it's like I'm kind of stuck right now. So I buckled down and I started streaming again, but, like, really trying to be legit about it. So right now I'm in the process of getting my paperwork done with Twitch to make affiliate. And for no one who knows what that is, that essentially means, like, you can sub to me. You know how sometimes you can go on your favorite Twitch streamer and you can follow, but you can also sub. And you get special things like if the Twitch streamer decides to do subscriber only, you can talk to them. Or if they have emotes, you can use their emotes, etc., etc. So I'm pretty close to that. I already gave all my paperwork and stuff to Twitch, so I'm pretty close to doing that. I'm just waiting for them to get back to me. So I did that this week. And then I made a Fiverr. Well, I didn't finish it yet. I'm in the process of finishing the Fiverr just to, I've had a couple of people, like, try to contact me through Twitter, and I don't see the messages because they get filtered into, like, the message requests. So it's like, okay, how about I just make an official website where they can go to, and hopefully, like, that'll work. So, and then, yeah, so I'm in the process of all that and trying to make a website so I can start offering online lessons because I've had not a lot of people, but a few people tell me they'd be interested. So I'm essentially opening up my own small business kind of. So, because I literally have nothing else to do. So it's like I might as well take this time to try. So let's see what happens. But that's literally been the last week and a half since we've talked.
Yeah, I remember you had texted me like it's been a weird week.
Yeah,
And
it's Yeah.
Yeah, I figured it was something like work related because there hasn't been any. And I'm sorry to hear that like, you got let go.
It is what it is, man. It's just
It's
that's life.
never yeah, but it's never a good thing to hear.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I'm really glad that you like really buckled down and did some stuff. Like you've been doing some work.
Yeah,
Whether I mean
I'm trying to. I'm legit
yeah,
trying to.
you're in the process of doing stuff, but like you
Mm-hmm.
actually took those steps to do it. You know, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Actually, very
So,
proud of you.
oh, thank you, man. I appreciate that. I mean, be proud of me once next week I come in and I said, all right, I actually got it done.
No,
But
but
I'm
I'm proud that you've taken those first
the
steps.
initiative. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dad. Speaking of Dad, quick pause because my dad's actually calling me. So please hold. Legit, he is. He called me like 3 times already. Hold on. You know how Mexican parents are. ¿Por qué no me puedes llamar de regreso? Oh my god.
He wants you to take out the trash.
No, he wants me to fix his Roku.
Oh.
Hold on. All right, when we come back, I definitely want to talk about this now too. Because, all right. And back in 3, 2, 1. Okay, so I do want to say this. And, because I love my parents. And I think Brian can maybe understand because his parents are also Hispanic. There's something weird about telling my folks especially, and it's like I have to do the work to get them accustomed to it because I was telling them like because my mom especially, you know how moms are, ¿qué vas a hacer para trabajo? No tienes trabajo. And it's like, what are you gonna do for work? And it's just like, well, I've started I started a Fiverr and I'm doing online commissions and also I started streaming and I'm close to affiliate. So she's like, it's like, what's that? What's streaming? And it's just like, I just go online, play video games, and like write music maybe and let people into the process where I perform. And she's like, oh, okay. And then so like they have it in their head now, right? What the idea, what it is? I try to tell them it's essentially like on online radio, but with people seeing me. And then it's like trying to get them to understand like, hey, when I'm recording, like you can't bother me. Like I'm
I'm
working.
in the middle of work.
Like you guys don't understand. Like yeah, it's not a lot of money right now or any money maybe at the moment, but like it's putting in the hours to that eventually I build this thing up to something. And it's like God bless them. I love my folks. This isn't shade at my parents, but it kind of is. But it's like they don't fully grasp the idea. But I have an idea of like now because like for anyone who doesn't know, my parents are like how do I? They're not preachers because we're not Christians, but they're essentially they work heavily in the Catholic ministry, and they host like conferences and stuff like that. And lately they've been doing it online. So
Are
I
they
think
like friars?
no. Can you imagine? Next time you come home, both of my parents with that friar's cap on. No. They're
Like
just
in full
uh,
robes and everything.
for any
Yeah.
Catholics out there. They're laicos. It's just like just regular, ordinary people that are Catholic and serving. But they've been doing online retreats and stuff like that, like hosting online retreats and like online concerts and what have you. And I think I can. It's like how would you feel if in the middle of what you're doing, I come down and I'm just like, Dad, I need
I'm
something.
hungry.
I'm hungry. I think maybe I can get them to understand it in that aspect. And like for anyone, it's not just Hispanic parents. Like for anyone who has like parents that are like, not born in the States, like they came from another country and stuff like that. There's something about trying to explain to them like modernisms. I don't know if I'm using that word correct, but like modern things like streaming and YouTube and like and getting them to understand that it's like, yeah, I'm trying to get into that now because I kind of don't have anything else. And it's just like, it's like for them, it's like, why are you wasting your time? And it's like, because it's not fallible to them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I can totally understand. So in college, I was a psychology major, and one of my classes was abnormal psychology, in which we did personality disorders. And so for my term paper, I did dissociative personality disorder, which is like multiple personalities. And I wanted to have fun with it, so I picked Chris Jericho as my subject. Because one, so I mean, and this will tie into a topic a little bit later, but you know, wrestlers go through multiple iterations of their character, right? And it's just evolution of the storylines that like progress during their careers, right? But also, I've met Chris Jericho in person, and so super nice guy, like very, very, very humble, very nice. And so in this paper, I'm talking about all the different characters he plays, and then the Chris Jericho, like, or Chris Irvine, essentially, right outside of wrestling. And for my research, I'm basically watching wrestling, right? And there's that documentary also of the Before They Were Superstars. Do you remember that?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's like their life story, and they like interview them, things like that. So I'm just watching a lot of videos, and to my dad, it looks like I'm watching wrestling.
Yeah.
And then I guess it was like about 4 weeks of research, right, for this term paper. So for 4 weeks, essentially, he's just watching me watch wrestling,
Wrestling.
and it's built up. And so one day he goes, "What are you doing? Like, you're not studying. You're not doing any homework. All you're doing is watching your stupid little wrestling, right?"
It's like, but Dad, the homework
But
is wrestling.
is
You
wrestling.
don't get it, Dad.
But it was really difficult to explain to him
Yeah.
like what I was doing, how this actually was homework.
Yeah, it's literally kind of like the same thing too when I decided to become a music major, and just me locking myself up in my room playing music, and then my parents are like, "You're just goofing off," and it's like, no, I'm actually studying for this recital I have coming up. Like, that's my test, is being able to play this crap. But yeah, it's so weird, man. It's just, I don't know. I kind of relate it to Hispanic parents, but I would imagine it's like most parents are not like like I mean, that come from like third world countries, kind of, sort of, you know what I mean, or
Not even, I
perceived
think,
third world countries.
or even I think just it's that generation gap, right? Because
You think so?
I think so. I feel like technology for some people, like if they're not using it constantly and they're not keeping up with it, like it's
Yeah,
easy to get lost.
yeah.
Yeah.
I remember when I had to explain to my parents the Schmoedown. I don't think they still get it, because every like couple of months they'll ask me like, and what's the show again you do, David? And it's like, oh, it's the Schmoedown. Yeah, but we're like, what is it? It's just like, well, okay. But it's just,
Tell them it's a game show. That's all it is.
it's a game show. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I try to like, it's like, but man, it's the thing too, like the game shows, they
It's
can't
like
relate to
Family
it.
Feud.
Yeah, they don't watch that. That's the problem too. The typical Hispanic parents watch Univision y Fútbol. You know what I mean? Just like,
Oh yeah.
and the news, but like
It's
the,
like Gigante Pequeño. So what's it called? The Pequeños
that
Gigantes.
doesn't even, I mean, not really, because that's not really like
No, it's not even
knowledge based
close.
show.
Yeah.
It's a silly Saturday extravaganza of variety. So, anyways, but
Yeah.
for anyone out there with specifically Hispanic parents, I'm sure you can relate. It's not, your parents mean well, but it's like if they don't get it, their automatic response is just to be angry at you. What are you doing?
We're saying just have patience with your parents.
Yeah, that's what we're
They
trying to
love
say.
you very
Just-
much.
Yes, they raised you. They tried their best. They came, in my case, they came from a country where they didn't speak the language where they are, and this is it. It's a little bit of shade, but I love my parents. But if they're watching this, which they're not, but if they are, I'm sorry. And if my sisters are watching this, they're probably like, "Yep, can relate." So
If anyone's going to relate, it's your sisters.
it's my siblings, yeah, my two sisters for sure. So I do. Yeah, you know what? Let's do this. Not to derail the show too much, but we did have some tragic news last week. We did lose a legit hero. I would legitimately say, like, a legitimate superhero for all the wonderful things he has accomplished. Of course, if you haven't heard yet, Chadwick Boseman passed away last Friday at the age of 43 to colon cancer. And before we get into that, I do kind of want to just take 10 seconds of silence just to kind of respect the man and all the things he's done So let's really quickly, let's just do 10 seconds of silence in memory of Chadwick Boseman. Yeah, it was weird because it was a weird week, and like the day itself wasn't a weird thing, but like hearing what happened and hearing specifically how it happened in the context of what I was doing that day, it just kind of like, I don't know if I could say shock, but it was kind of like I was at a loss for words and like emotions. It was just this weird little blank state of like, what the heck, like, because like if you know anything about the story, and in case you don't, we'll try to catch you up. But essentially, he's been battling colon cancer for like the last 4 or 5 years. They said,
4 years, 2016, I
yeah,
think.
2016. So it's this thing he's been quietly battling that not no one really knew, minus I'm assuming his family, like his legitimate like immediate family, and just to hear of all the things he did during that time, like filming all the films he did, like all the biopics he did, but especially Black Panther and everything he did for Marvel and the regiment he went through to get ready for that role while battling this like awful, awful disease. Man, it just, I don't know. Like, even right now, still thinking about it, it still puts me at a loss for words because it's like he did so much for a generation of kids now that have representation. And it's like, look, legitimately, representation is important. For the only people who don't think it's important are the people who are constantly represented in media, whether that, especially main pop culture media, like movies and TV shows, especially the popular ones. Like you really can't comprehend like what it means to have true representation, to see like leading men and women that look like you, that have your culture, your heritage, if you will, your ethnicity, and for him to really go to bat and really make sure that not only did he properly represent a people, like a literal section of the human race, but but to have the whole film be that and to be a mega blockbuster and to also be as poignant as it was with its messages. Like, say what you will, it's a superhero movie, sure, the third act, whatever, but the main theme of Black Panther was literally the experience of what it means to be a black person in America. You know what I mean? And then what it means to be a black person in general. That was the whole point of kind of that film. And then for him to represent kind of like, to me, honestly, he was a badass superhero. Like he was the coolest. He was so regal. He was so smooth. He was suave, and like, but he still had an edge to him, especially in like Civil War when we're first introduced to him, and he's just on this rampage of like, I need revenge on my father. But then to have the wherewithal at the end for his character to be like vengeance begets more vengeance is just like you can't solve a killing with another killing, and like have that translate into Black Panther, and then having the character of Killmonger, and then to know like how much he actually contributed to Killmonger, the character in that film too, especially the last line of Killmonger before he dies. It's just like, wow, like this dude was a true creative mind. He was like a legit artist, and he had a lot of wherewithal and wisdom and what have you to really know to really understand what he was doing at the moment is, and just for the world to lose him is like, it just sucks because he's done so many wonderful things. Um, and just, yeah, and just knowing certain people, like having certain friends and stuff, and to know like what he meant to them is just, it's just a huge loss for the world in general. But like, man, did he leave such a wonderful legacy, and a
Yeah,
legacy that we could
he,
always go back and revisit.
yeah, Chadwick Boseman was a kind of like superstar actor, that was kind of like from a different generation, right? Because you get those, I don't know, like George Clooney's, where you don't know too much about their personal life,
Mm-hmm.
right? As opposed to more like current actors, where you know like everything about them. You know who they're dating. You know like basically where they live. You know all that, right? With Chadwick Boseman, he was very very personal. Yeah, very personal. He kept things very private.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that added to like that regalness you talked about, how he's very poised, and anytime he was on camera, like outside of film, you could tell like he was very thoughtful about what he was doing. And the fact that you did get to see him outside of film, like on camera doing whatever it was, he was some kind of press junket, right? It seemed a little bit special because of what he actually represented.
Yeah, I concur. And it's just I mean, it's unfortunate because 43 is relatively young still. You know what I mean? And to lose your battle, but yeah, it was just it just sucks. Like there's no real pleasant way to say it. It just sucks, and it's just a reminder of how fleeting life can be sometimes. But like, man, if we can all be so lucky to leave a legacy and an impact the way this dude did, he made the most with this time. He definitely did. So yeah, we just wanted to say that real quick, pay our respects and what we thought of him. Of course, like, you know, for me, it's like he's done a lot. Like, I love Black Panther, I legitimately do. And I remember we had this discussion a while back. At the time when Black Panther came out, it was like my number one film. You remember this discussion we had? And like the argument back and forth, and like, yeah, it was just super impactful. And it was like, man, and it made me hyped up. Like, I hope one day we get like an all Hispanic, Latino, main pop culture mega blockbuster summer movie. And yeah, and eventually it's like we're getting representation now too. Like we have Oscar Isaac, who is obviously the most famous character for him is Poe Dameron in Star Wars. Diego Luna, who was I always forget his name unfortunately, but he was in Rogue One, and like, you know, like representation legit matters. Pedro Pascal, Mandalorian. So yeah,
Antonio Banderas, Zorro,
and Dorio Banderas.
El Zorro.
El Zorro. But yeah, just wanted to say rest in power, and I mean, he left a huge legacy, so he may be gone, but he definitely will not be forgotten. So any last words that you'd like to say on Chadwick Boseman?
I think you said it beautifully. There's nothing more to add.
Thank you. There's no easy transition, so we're just gonna transition into our next topic, Kevin Smith. Specifically, our first film and possibly our favorite film. So I will let Brian start us off. Brian, what was your first Kevin Smith film?
I have no idea. I was thinking about this, and I legit have no idea what my very first film was. I imagine it might have been Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. Was that like 2000, 2001?
I can look it up real quick.
Okay, so I mean, we would have been maybe 11, 12 years old, right? Right on the cusp of being a teenager. And seeing like Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back with all these pop culture references, like a ton of pop culture references. That was like legit, like really cool to see. I don't think I've ever seen a film like that before, right? And then that led me to, I believe, like Mallrats, and eventually to Clerks.
And you were pretty close, 2001.
2001. Okay, hold on. All right.
Typical Hispanic
go.
parents. It was on brand
Yeah,
today,
it
at
is on
least.
brand. Okay, it's
All right.
3, 2, 1. Okay, so yeah, so 2000. You said 2001.
Yeah,
2001
2001 was Jay and Silent
Yeah.
Bob.
So yeah, that would have been right about the time where like things are very, or like, would have been very impressionable, right, at that age, and seeing how awesome Jane Silent Bob was. Like I went back, I got to see like Mallrats and Clerks and other stuff like Jersey Girl was like the fact that it was Kevin Smith. Like I was gonna be enthusiastic about it no matter what. But my favorite film, It's also going to be a tough one. So we've had discussions like this before, also.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to fluctuate depending on how I'm feeling on the day, I guess. But as of right now, man, maybe reboot?
Mm.
Possibly.
For right now,
For
possibly,
right
right?
now. Yeah. I think just because the fact that it's a culmination of everything that came before it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How about you? What was you know what your first film was?
I know exactly what my first
Oh,
film was. It was Clerks 2. It came out in July of 2006. So it was like the first rated R movie I can get myself into, and it was like fresh
high school.
out of high school. And I remember I went to go watch it with a friend at the time, and it was like the funniest movie I've ever seen in the theater ever. And it was like my kind of humor, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like I related to it so much, and it just reminded me of like what me and my friends did at the time. So that was my first one, man. Clerks 2, and I was like, who is this? And this ever since then, I just did like a huge back catalog, and I eventually went, I got Clerks 1, I got Dogma, Chasing Amy, I got Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, and yeah, ever since then, like just like you, I would follow Kevin Smith, whatever he did, I'd be very excited for it. In terms of my favorite movie, it's just like you, it changes. I really love Reboot, but I don't know if I can say it's my favorite. I think maybe this is where it gets hard, man. This is where it gets
Mm-hmm.
hard because it's like, do I choose one of his like more serious films? Do I choose one of his comedies? Because
Just
like Clerks two
just say it's
holds.
Tusk. I mean, we all know you love Tusk.
I do, I do love Tusk. I love Tusk. Red State. Zach and Miri make a porno. Obviously, Clerks 2 is like it holds a special place in my heart. But man, I another one that I revisited a lot. Huh. And this might be controversial, being who I am, but I think it might be Dogma.
Oh,
I think it might be
that's
Dogma. It
interesting.
just the commentary on religion and like the whole like getting so stuck in tradition and stuff like that, and then like how he made that into a movie, I thought was very clever. And also too, like at the time, and I've heard Kevin Smith say this in like one of his evenings, like Evening with Kevin Smith stuff, where he was saying it was like it was his stance on his faith, where he said it. He's obviously changed his stance as he got older, right? But at the time, he said when he wrote the film, it was like him saying like, yeah, I don't really believe in this religion, but I believe in God. So it was like him saying like, well, I have faith, but I'm not a religious man.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, okay, that makes sense for Dogma. And to me, for Dogma, besides being hilarious, being very poignant, just being fucking bananas too. It's a bananas film. I think for me, it kind of solidified like yeah, like I believe in God. I believe like we don't ultimately know as human beings, but we go on it by faith. So, because I can't say Clerks 2 twice. I really love Clerks 2. That's probably legit the movie I've seen the most out of Kevin Smith. Like it makes me laugh every time. Like I don't get tired of it. And I can't say Tusk because you saw how Brian just treated me now. So
No, no, it's fine. It's fine. We'll just just might have to be the last episode of Speak Freely.
yeah, see, I can't say Tusk, guys, or else I probably legit would say it. 'Cause it's so like
It's out
it's
there.
honestly, dude, it's the most ballsy movie ever. The fact that it was like this Craigslist ad that they read on his podcast, and they had a good laugh about it, and then Kevin Smith decides to make it a movie, and not a comedy movie, make it like a very serious horror movie. That movie has so much balls, and I respect him for it, and it's ridiculous, and I love it. I'm sorry. It's a tie between Tusk, Dogma, and Clerks too. The holy trinity of Kevin Smith films. But I mean, but I love all of them, man. Chasing Amy, Mallrats. I didn't mention that. But yeah, the ones I've seen the most: Clerks 1 and 2, Dogma, Jay and Silent Bob, Tusk, Zack and Miri Make a Porno. one of his. I feel like that's his most underrated film because no one really talks about it that much. But I
Well,
think that movie's
he's talked about
hysterical.
it in that he was trying to be Judd Apatow when he
Yeah.
realized that he wasn't. He like shifted back towards what he knows.
But I still think like it was hilarious.
I love it. I
I
think
love
it's
it
funny.
too. But anyways, so let's get into our next topic. Chris Jericho. Why? Because we feel like it, and if you don't get it, guess what, pal? You just made the list. Speaking of the
Huh?
list,
I
we're
see what
gonna
you did there.
we're gonna list off our first match, or maybe like where we first were in. What's the word I'm looking for? I'm fucking blanking out. I'm sorry. This is great.
Introduced?
Yeah, our first introduction. That's way better. Leave all that crap in. I want people to know that I'm human. Our first introduction to Chris Jericho. And I think for me, since I let you start off the last one, Brian, you ball hog. I think for me, I think for
So
me,
the first time I saw Chris
no,
Jericho was
no, WCW, man. And this is the promo, and I'm sure marks out there are gonna know it. The list of 1,001 holds. Number one, armbar, right? And then they cut to break and they come back. Number 127, armbar. But that was like the first thing I remember seeing of Chris Jericho. And then obviously when he jumped ship and he had that promo against The Rock at on WWF Raw. That was like my first vivid memories of Chris Jericho, the wrestler. What about you, Brian?
that moment right there. I never watched WC. I mean, I guess if it was on, I might like just look at it. But I was never a big fan of like WCW the way it was WWF at the time. Like I didn't really switch back and forth between Raw and Nitro, right? Mostly just stayed on Raw. But that moment where the countdown happens and he cuts that promo on The Rock, calls himself like Y2J, all this stuff, right? That was my first impression of who Chris Jericho was. At least who the character was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I used that intro as part of my term paper actually.
Dude, I
Like
remember.
that experience of me, like it's like counting down from like what's it, like from 9 to 8 to 7, like what's going on, right? Like 6 7, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like wait, he just interrupted The Rock? Like what?
I
And the fact
remember
that he calls him like, what do you call him? Like a little pooty tang asshole or whatever. I don't
something
know.
like that. Yeah,
Ass clown. Probably an ass clown.
yeah.
Yeah, but I remember
What
thinking like, oh, I love this guy.
I remember about that more than anything was the countdown. Like for like weeks, we just had a clock. You remember that?
I do.
And it was
Yeah.
just counting down to Y2J. And then the day the countdown finally was reaching 10-9-8, it was like Chris Jericho. And I thought that lead up was like so brilliant. It built up so much hype because no one knew. It was like, what's the clock for? It's like, and you know how King and Jerry the King Lawler and JR at the time, they were like speculating like the end of the world or like some kind of virus was coming to, you know what I mean?
Y2K is
Yeah,
coming.
so
Yeah.
it was just a brilliant gimmick. Speaking of gimmicks, instead of listing our favorite match, which is what a typical Mark will do, we're gonna list our favorite iteration of Chris
Ooh.
Jericho.
I see
So
you switched this. Oh, it's not on the notes, but
I switched it, man.
you
I'm
switched
calling
it.
an audible. Because everyone does favorite matches, right? And we could do that afterwards,
Sure.
but
Yeah.
I don't want it. I want to be different. I want to say our favorite iteration of Chris Jericho. To right now, Mr. Little Bit of the Bubbly Le Champion from AEW, to Lionheart, all the way back in like, good gosh, when was that? Like 90, 80, 89, 88? It's been around for a minute.
No.
Yeah, it was like early 90s, dude. He was Lionheart in
I would have said like maybe like 93, 91, 93, maybe.
he's been wrestling for like 30
A
years,
long
dude.
time.
Yeah. So I'll let you start off this one. So
El
it gives me
Corazón de León.
so it gives me time to think. What's your favorite?
Damn it.
What's your favorite gimmick?
Um,
He has a bunch, dude.
he has so much. The list was really cool.
Oh, that was fucking brilliant.
I like Chris Jericho as a heel.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say that first. First and foremost, Chris Jericho as a heel works really well. He knows how to get legit heat.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he knows how to work that crowd, make them hate him. Um, and like Y2J, it was like, it was really cool to see because I had never seen anything like it before. But he didn't do too much with it in the beginning, right? It wasn't until a little bit later on that he actually got his shot to do something. But maybe the savior? No, not even the savior. I would say Chris Jericho in the list.
Chris Jericho on the list.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was really fun. The whole list, Chris Jericho and his friendship with Kevin Owens.
yeah.
It was really great. Yeah, dude, he's done so much, man. I think I'm trying to base this off of like what actually took off compared to like the potential. Cuz like when he came back and remind me what years was, but when he came back with like the light suit and he wasn't talking, he was just like, "Yeah!" You remember? He was just high-fiving people on the ringside and he just he didn't talk for like 2 weeks and no one knew what was up.
Oh,
Like
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
potential for that was something very. But see, you had a hard time remembering because like the
I
WWE put
did.
the kibosh on that and just had him be regular old Chris Jericho, which is he's on. I think on his podcast, I think he's mentioned like he had ideas for what he wanted to do with that character, but of course, at the end of the day, it's not your say; it's someone else's in that company.
Uh,
Um, I was also thinking about when he like just went full on heel and he would like wear suits and he cut his hair. So we had great angles, specifically him against Shawn Michaels, and he literally punched Shawn Michaels' wife on TV. And that was the era. Like
oh
people
man.
legit hated him. Like he was
Yeah.
a good heel.
He talked about how there were times when like he would just like be on his way to the arena, be in an elevator somewhere, and like there's his dad and his son. Like, hey, like my son really likes you. Like, can we get an autograph? And for him to be like, I need to stay in character. I need this little boy to fucking hate me.
Yeah.
No, that's how much he like loved the craft of his job.
Hmm.
He would tell him, no, like, no, get away from me. Don't even look at me. All because he needed that one little boy to hate him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he was like, and there's an argument to be made because MGF did something similar, but like, I mean, that's one of the reasons why I love wrestling because it's like that blurry little line of like fiction and reality. Because yeah, it's like it's fiction, right? We all know there's heels and baby faces and what have you, but the fact that the wrestlers do so much to not break that fourth wall, even though we
Hmm.
know, but they still try to make it legitimate. You know what I mean?
Yeah, try to stay kayfabe.
Yeah, I think even though like people are like kayfabe is dead or whatever. Yes and no, depending, right? And I always equate it to MGF because MGF had a moment too where he like flipped off a kid at a wrestling con and people were up and like, "How dare you flip off that kid? Who the fuck do you know what I mean?" But it was like, but he's a heel, like he's being his character at a wrestling con, like
Yeah.
but I have to answer. Shit. Um, man,
Didn't Chris Jericho start a riot somewhere? Not like he started it, but like a riot started because of the heat that he had in an
yeah, I think he
arena.
mentioned that. It was like in the South American country, I think, right? They had a house show or something.
Yeah.
And like people legit got really mad at him. They were like throwing bottles of piss at him. That's the
Yeah.
story he says. Of course, like not like wrestlers are prone to embellish or anything, but
Mm.
I mean,
I mean, I'm sure everything in his books
are legit.
are, yeah, they're facts, right?
Yeah, 100%. You don't check them.
Mm-hmm. Don't you?
Damn, the list is really good. That was like the last good thing he did before he left. Yeah, I mean, the stuff I remember from him is when he cut the hair after the Y2J persona and became just all business Y2J, and he was just like a legit dick, and that was really
Mm-hmm.
good. The light up suit has so much potential, but he didn't do anything with it. And then he came back with like the list, and that was really great too. Um, damn. I think for right now, I will have to say Le Champion in AEW, just because it's like it sort of feels like Jericho Unleashed, if that makes sense. Like that was the whole
Hmm.
reason he ultimately decided to leave WWE. Being a company man, like being there for like 20 plus years almost, right? And then deciding to leave because he had this opportunity to try different things. Because obviously, like he's mentioned it before, like WWE just wanted to keep doing the same shit over and over again. He was like, he was just done with it. Like he didn't want to. He wanted to be creative, which I get. Like I get where he's coming from. And then like he had that stint in New Japan where he was like kind of heelish, but it was like a badass heel. And then AEW being Le Champion and a little bit of the bubbly and like all that character work. I really like it, and it might not be his best work. I probably would argue his best work was probably when he was doing the list and telling people he'll get it. And it's like, get what? Get it, right? Like all that stuff he did
Hmm.
was like was it was that's probably his best work. But I think the fact that he can constantly reiterate himself and create a buzz, being in the business as long as he's been, just a testament to how good of a performer he is, right? I mean, you can say
Hmm.
about anything about his in ring skills now because he's up there in age, and of course, you don't move the same way you did when you were 20. Like you just can't. But just the fact that he can evolve consistently, and people are always like, "Dude, you gotta check this out, man." Chris Jericho had this program with Kenny Omega, and now he's in AEW, and he had a program with John Moxley, and it's like, and the man's been around a long time. It's just a testament to how good of a performer he is. So I'll say for right now, Le Champion version. And the reason I'm saying Le Champion is because Le Champion and Kevin Smith had a
Wait, what?
match on the movie Trivia Schmoedown. What? What? Yes. Chris Jericho, Le Champion, went up against Kevin Goodenough Smith, which I love that Kevin chose that name.
Oh my God, if you, even if just 6 months ago, you told me, no, 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 that's not true because they've been working together for a while. If 3 years ago, you told me that I would be saying Kevin Smith and Chris Jericho in the same sentence,
It's so
I'd have
weird.
called you crazy.
It's
I
so
would have
weird.
never have thought I would put Chris Jericho and Kevin Smith together. But I guess it sort of started when Kevin Smith was on Chris Jericho's podcast
Yeah.
some 3 years ago, or something like that.
And then
Three or
he
4 years ago.
and then he got asked on Jay and Silent Bob, and now apparently
Mm-hmm.
they've filmed like 3 films together. Like Kevin Smith has done, like he has a couple of movies coming out, but
Yeah, I think they were smaller. Like it wasn't a Kevin Smith project, but he got to like I think direct some portion of it, and he had to work with Chris Jericho as I think some sort of monster slash like
no, it's a Kevin Smith project. It's the
yeah. What is it?
they call it Moose Jaws.
Was it for Moose Jaws?
I think he mentioned on the interview he did for SEN that he gave Chris Jericho a part in Moose Jaws in another film, either Clerks 3 or Kilroy. I don't quite remember. The next 2 projects that Kevin Smith is working on, he did give a role to Chris Jericho.
Hmm.
But the main one, obviously, we've seen so far is his role in Jay and Silent Bob reboot as a as a KKK member. So ridiculous, and they get poop on him. But yeah, man. But it's just wild. If you would have told me 6 months ago that Kevin Smith or Chris Jericho, let alone both, were going to have a full-on legitimate competitive match in the movie Trivia Schmoedown, I wouldn't have believed you. Yet here we are, 8 months into the year, and sure enough, Chris Jericho went up against Kevin Smith in a one-on-one singles debut competition match, and not only did it deliver, it legit exceeded expectations because they had a hell of a match, dude. They were they were going back and forth at it with the trivia knowledge.
Yeah. If it went into overtime.
Yeah, coming out of that first round, I think Kevin Smith was just like 1 point in the lead, or they were tied, something like that.
It was like 1 or 2 points in the lead, and
Yeah,
then ended up getting tied towards the end. Yeah.
and it's like they like I think Kevin Smith spun opponent's choice, and then Chris Jericho gave him Meg Ryan, if I remember that correctly.
Yes.
Because he originally got something else, and he got disaster films, I think, and he spun away from it.
Mm-hmm.
And then
No, no,
surprisingly,
no.
no, yeah, he got disastrous film, and then he landed on he either landed or got Meg Ryan. I actually, you know what, I think it was actually two opponents' choices.
It was. I know Chris Jericho landed on disaster films first and
Yes,
spun away from it.
yes,
What did Kevin Smith land on? I think he just landed on opponent's choice.
he didn't do he didn't spin away.
I don't think so.
Let me quickly do a quick little research. You're not come on, YouTube. I'm on the clock here, YouTube. So, after a quick, where's the match? Do. Yeah, so they came out of the match 7-6. Kevin Smith got opponent's choice, and they gave him
Meg Ryan.
Meg Ryan. Yes, I think the initial spin was. Oh, it was all. Yeah, I think you're right. I think the initial spin was right away. He got opponent's choice. Yep. And then Chris Jericho gave him Meg Ryan, and he did okay in it. Like, not really being like super knowledgeable in Meg Ryan, he did pretty good in Meg Ryan. And then Chris Jericho went up. He got disastrous films, like Brian said, and then he spun again. And he got opponent's choice. And what did
I love what he did here.
what did Kevin Smith do? Tell the audience.
Kevin Smith gave Chris Jericho the topic of Kevin Smith.
It was so strategically. It was really smart if you really think about it, because it's like, how many questions can you know about Kevin Smith? But also, just for entertainment value, was freaking hilarious that he gave him
Yeah.
Kevin Smith films. And then Chris
And then
Jericho.
Chris Jericho killed it.
Yeah, he actually did really good.
Well. That's when is that when he tied it? I think that's when he tied it up.
Yeah, that's when they tied
At the
it.
end
They
of round
went.
two.
They went to the third round being tied, if I remember that correctly.
Yeah, and then they ended up tied after the third round as well. It went right into overtime. But man, that like Kevin's if you think about who Kevin Smith is and what he does with his career, him in the movie Trivia Schmoedown kind of makes sense,
Yep.
right? His whole career is based on the fact that he loves pop culture, and film being a part of that. And then him going to, like, I think 1 semester of film school or something. I think that's what he said. So it just makes sense. Chris Jericho doing the movie Trivia Schmoedown makes less sense to me.
A little less
But-
sense. Yeah.
Yeah, but he actually proved me wrong, right? He surprised me. Yeah, he knew some stuff.
He held up against
Yeah.
Kevin Smith, like, legitimately. Like, they actually had a really good match, right? And some of those questions weren't like some fans were complaining like, the softball question, but some of those questions I was like, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, it's not something just a regular casual fan of movies would know. There were like some hard-hitting questions in there, and they both surprisingly did very, very well. For me, wait, let's talk about the third round first. I'm jumping ahead. So the third round, they go in tied. Chris Jericho does surprisingly well with Kevin Smith. I also love that Chris Jericho was playing into like Roxy's his manager, playing into her heel persona. You know what I mean? Telling like the other manager and Kevin to shut
Telling
up.
Steve Dave to shut up. Yeah. I hate that Steve Dave
God,
guy.
they talk so much, and then doing the whole like Hollywood elitist agenda and be like, "There's a Kevin Smith, Will Slice. Why isn't there a Chris Jericho Will Slice? I see this trying to make the Hollywood guy look better." And it was just, it was so good. Everything about it was just entertaining. But yeah, they go into that third round, and they tie it up, and we go into sudden death. And the reason we're skipping over that third round is because I don't remember the questions, and it doesn't matter. They tied it up. Go watch it. Legit. Like, look, we have a few listeners. If you and you've been hearing me especially talk about the Schmoedown, right? Forcing Brian into discussing it with me, but he's also a fan. He's also a fan. That's not a fair assessment. If you,
I am watching against my will.
yeah, shut up. Shut up, Hollywood elitist. Blah 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 blah. But legit, if you do not hear like the enthusiasm in our voices talking about it, and that doesn't convince you, legit, go watch Kevin Smith and Chris Jericho. If you're a movie fan or a wrestling fan, and God help you if you're both, you're gonna freaking fall in love with this match, and I promise you're gonna want to go back because this match was really good. But like the legit competitors, man, those matches, wow. But they go into overtime, and I forget what the last question was. It was like a weird. I could probably find it real quick. Was it the Expendables question? No, they both got that right. Yeah, they got it right, and then Chris Jericho was like, "That doesn't look like a 3."
Oh yeah, Expendables.
Let me find that last question real quick. I'm really close to the end here. Because they tied it up at 19 and 19. It was like a... It was a weird question, but essentially Kevin Smith got it right. He said the Penguin, and Chris Jericho said something else, and then...
Oh, which Batman villain ran for mayor in
Yes.
Batman Returns?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Kevin Smith got it right with the Penguin, and he won the match 20 to 19. And it was just fun. But I legit want the
Yeah.
people to hear your perspective more than anything. So tell us what you thought about the match.
You said it, right? It was fun. And you could tell that Kevin Smith and Chris Jericho were also having fun, right? Even though Chris Jericho was playing into that heel character a little bit, you could tell he was having like the time of his life, just kind of hanging out with everyone there, especially with, you could tell him and Kevin Smith are actually pretty good buddies. They bag on each other a little bit, and they just, I love the fact that like they would each pull out like memorabilia of each other's stuff. It's like Chris Jericho would disappear for a second and bring back a Kevin Smith movie, right? Or like Kevin Smith was wearing a Chris Jericho T-shirt, and he would disappear and bring back like a Canadian flag, and
Yeah, I was about to say, yeah.
like they're just, oh man, it was just so much fun. I had a good time watching it.
It was just entertaining. It was an entertaining match all around. And what I love specifically about this event, we didn't talk about the undercard that much, but what I loved about this event was just the two extremes of what a Schmoedown match can be. Because in that first match, we have a knockout, right? And the fans are like, "What's that?" And then the explanation of what a knockout is in that movie trivia game, and then going to sudden death in the next match. And it was just like these two contrasting matches that I think ultimately were a weird coincidence. Because everyone thought that first match wouldn't end in a knockout, but it did. But we got a lot of eyes on that event, dude. 4,200 people tuned in to watch that match live.
Oh wow.
Yes. And usually we get like maybe 2K at the most, but like Kevin Smith and Jericho, man, they brought in the eyes, and it was really fun and cool. So I do want to mention one thing just to pull the curtain back a little bit. And I mentioned this on a previous show. Like immediately after the match, I jumped onto the Let's Get Ready to Talk Schmoedown podcast. But I want to mention this here specifically for Brian.
For me?
Yeah, because I didn't tell you this. I don't think I told you this, but I want to tell it on there. For me, it was, besides being insanely entertaining and very, very good for the company, it was very personal for me, that match. Because Chris Jericho was playing for the team of rock stars, and Kevin Smith was playing for the team of quirky mercs. Both teams I have written themes for, and both Kevin Smith and Chris Jericho walked out to music I wrote, and that to me was like a dream come true. Like, I remember being in high school, learning how to play guitar, right? Having watched WrestleManias and all that stuff, and being like, wouldn't it be cool if I can write like a wrestling theme one day? Wouldn't it be cool if I could play out a wrestler? And then watching Kevin Smith, right, and being like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if like I wrote a song that Kevin Smith would use in his films, or if I could score one of his films, you know what I mean? And to have literally both of them in one night walk out to music I wrote, right? They probably didn't hear it, and because it was virtual, it was online, but just the fact that like, you know what I mean? Like the world saw them walk out, and it's music I wrote. Like to me, if you would have told like 16, 17-year-old David, like, man, keep at it, dude, one day in the distant future, like that little dumb little fantasy dream you had is gonna come true, I wouldn't have believed you, like legit. And like I mentioned this on the Let's Get Ready podcast. Shout out to those cats. Like, yeah, unfortunately, if it wasn't for COVID, it probably would have been live. I probably could have been there. I probably could
Mm-hmm.
have done it live. You know what I mean? But like it's a small victory I'm gladly gonna take, especially after the week of like getting laid off and not knowing like what my future holds in store. To see like Kevin Smith and Chris Jericho walk out, especially Kevin Smith, who really did an entrance and he really walked out and did like a big fanfare about it. It just kind of like was a small affirmation of like yeah, like right now times are tough, but you're on the right path. Like those little dreams you thought would never happen are slowly happening. So you just gotta keep hustling. So it was personally for me a cool moment. It was a great moment for the company. We got a lot, dude. 4,200 people is no freaking joke on YouTube, no less. So it was yeah, it was just a great day. This and then like the weird timing of like, Chadwick Boseman and stuff like that kind of made the day weird to process. But like at the same time, like taking it else is like we're gonna celebrate life. We're gonna celebrate Chad Boswick's life and the legacy left, and it's like I'm gonna celebrate my small victory and appreciate my life right now, because like this might not happen again. I might not have another chance like this, but it happened, and no one could take that away from me. Like I walked out, a wrestler and a famous film director walked out to music I wrote. So yeah, I just wanted to share that with you because I don't think I had you. I don't think
No,
we've
I
talked
mean,
about it, but
it was a thought that I had. It was a thought that I had when I was watching it. Like, David wrote this. I remember you had said that ideally you would have wanted to written like an original song for each competitor, but the fact that I was like,
mm-hmm,
I know there is like swag, you didn't write that one, but I know for most of the other factions,
mm-hmm,
like you wrote that music, and I thought about how
mm-hmm,
like, yeah, like you got to write that song, and then they got to come out to in that moment. But I had no idea like it meant that much to you, you know? Yeah,
yeah.
that's really awesome to hear. That's very
It's
heartwarming
like
to hear, actually. A little inspiring.
it's like yeah. It's weird, man, because it's like people that I watched growing up kind of influenced like my tastes. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean? And to have, whether they know it or not, but to have them like walk out to like something I did, you know? Like, yeah, an ideal world, of course, I would have loved to have done something different, or at the very least perform those songs live for them. Because for sure, if COVID wasn't a thing, that would definitely
Mm-hmm.
100% be a live event in Los Angeles, and we'd all be going there losing our fucking minds.
I would go there, I
But it
would carry
happened.
your bags into the arena just to be there.
just just like, hi, my name's David, and this is my
I don't
lackey.
call me whatever you want, bag boy, lackey.
Wonder Boy. But yeah, man, it was a cool day, and it was a weird day, and then became like a good day again. So it was like it was an event
Yeah.
for sure. But I can't iterate enough to our listeners. Go watch the Schmoedown. Start with this match. You'll have a great time.
Well put. I think that's gonna do it for today. Or is there more you want to add? All right.
Oh, that's it. That'll be
All right,
that'll
David.
be
Where
it for
can
today.
the people find you
Um,
on the socials?
Oh, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at DavidBMusic21. That's Twitter and Instagram. Please go follow me on Twitch. That's twitch.tv/DavidBMusic21 as well. And eventually I'll be on Fiverr. And that'll also probably be David B Music 21 because it's just I don't want to have the number, but some people already own David B Music, so whatever. I'm claiming that number
Why?
21.
Can I ask you
But
why 21?
yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Why 21?
All right. So I don't know if you remember, in high school when we were on AIM, my name used to be Solid Ruler 21
Oh,
as a
that sounds
username. I don't know if
so
you remember
vaguely
that.
familiar.
But it was loosely based off of like Metal Gear Solid. It was like Solid Snake, right? So I decided to just be I took the Solid and I was like, what's like a cool? I don't want to be Snake either. It was like, oh, Ruler because I rule. So I put
That's
Solid
such a
Ruler.
teenager thing to do.
And then the number, yeah, it really is. And then the number 21 because I thought, dude, when I'm at 21, I'm gonna be a fucking adult. I can drink, I can vote, I can do whatever I want. So it was like for me, 21 was that magic number, and like obviously I eventually turned 21. I was like, well, this is bullshit. Like, there's nothing great about this, but I just kept it. It just stuck around. So I was like, fuck it, it's my number. So I know what a lame ass
It's
story.
actually really interesting. It's man, that's a journey into the mind of a 14-year-old David B.
14, 16. When did AIM come
I
out
don't
for
know.
us? That was like
Junior year, I
sophomore,
think.
junior year.
Like
Junior
eighth,
year, yeah. That was like around the same time of like
Yeah.
MySpace and stuff.
maybe like 8th grade or something.
Anyways, enough about me. Where can the people find
Find
you?
me on Instagram and Twitter at Kuno_stars.
That's
I also
right.
have
And
a
you can
story
find this
about.
podcast,
Yeah.
Kuno. I'm not
Alright.
gonna ask it because I don't care. And you can find the podcast. No,
Well,
you know what? Legit, I'm glad you brought it up because this is gonna be the longest end of the show plug ever. But initially, when we started the show,
Right.
we went by your name, and you wanted to change it to Kuno Stars, and I was like, fair. And I've always wondered two things. Number one, why? Number two, where is Kuno Stars from?
well, David, I'm glad you asked. Yeah.
All right,
All
let's
right.
settle down, everybody. Grab a chair, light the
Yeah. So,
candles.
yeah. Obviously, my name Brian Kuniyoshi. Like Kuniyoshi. If you're not Japanese, not the easiest name to say, not the easiest name to read. Right? It's 9 letters bunched together. There's in 8th grade. There's this white kid who sat behind me in English class. Could not say Kuniyoshi for the life of him. Right? But we were good friends. We were like, we mostly talked about wrestling and sports. Yeah, but he could not say Kuniyoshi, so he would just call me Kuno. Right, he was just Kuno this, Kuno
Nice.
that, and I kind of I liked it. It stuck with me. And then to bring it back to wrestling, we have I played a lot of SmackDown on the PlayStation. You get to create your own characters, and so the name I would always pick for my character was always Kuno. That kind of became just like this persona that I would just use. And then I write poetry and short stories and stuff, and I would always use Kuno as part of that. Eventually, I was thinking, like, if I'm going to write stuff, I don't want it to be just a single name. And I've always been fascinated with like the stars and the moon and stuff, so I just picked Kuno Stars. And I've been using that basically since I was high school, I guess, 14 years old. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I was really hoping you'd say I use stars because of Stardust. Because of Cody Rhodes.
Actually, it'd be Dustin Rhodes, right?
No, but
No, that's Goldust. Yeah. What?
that's Gold Dust. Yeah, Dustin's Gold Dust.
Stardust.
Cody was Stardust.
I didn't like that.
Anyways, he did the most of it. He did the most he could with it. I definitely love Cody now in AEW. Speaking of AEW, you can find our podcast on all socials at Speak Freely Pod,
21.
and also, of course,
No, don't add the 21.
at Speak Freely Stars Pod 21 Rulers. So no, you can definitely find our podcast on Twitter and Instagram at Speak Freely Pod. You could also If you're listening to this on Spotify, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you're always notified when new episodes pop up. If you're watching this on our YouTube, thank you so much for stopping by. I hope you click that subscribe button. It's a little red button down there with the thumbs up. If it's gray, don't click it because you're already subscribed. God bless you. But if you're already subscribed, click that notification bell so when new episodes pop up, you're notified and you can get those little tasty morsels that we're kicking up over here. And yeah, and you can keep up to date with us through that as well. That'll be it for today's episode, everybody. I hope you had a great time. I definitely always have just the blastiest of blasts with this guy. Any departing words, Brian?
No, I just that I always have a blast too. Oh.
Oh, and we don't have an official sign off except for this, ladies and gentlemen. That's been an episode.